right, Zig coming in on the top. Today on the show, we have Rona Rougeheart of SINE. Rona just got signed to Emergency Heart Records, and they put out a compilation of all her earlier works. And Mantis, her new project, which is coming out in 3 EPs, is going to be out on all streaming platforms soon, if it's not already. SINE's new album is Mantis. This was a fun conversation with Rona. We're going to jump into listening to some of SINE's music. So this is Need to Bleed. Need to Bleed by SINE off the album Desire, Denial, and Paramania. The new album is Mantis. Be on the lookout. It's on all the streaming platforms. Like I said, if it's not out now, it will be soon. If you guys can like, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on any of the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool artists and sharing those insights with you. So without further ado, we're going to get into my conversation with Rona. Well, to get into it, what was music like in your family?
Well, let's see. My father was a musician and he played guitar. His family actually were very musical. All of his brothers played, or at least the ones, yes, I think all of his brothers played instruments that ranged from bass to drums to guitars. And then his mother also was an entertainer. She, I believe she did some dancing in her years. So that side of the family has always been pretty musical. So as a child, naturally, I was exposed to all that. My dad was a fan of music and had vinyl, so music was just always been around in my life.
That's awesome. What kind of, what was the general vibe? Was it like rock? Was it folk?
Yes, it was mostly rock. My dad was very much a city guy, so he loved the Beatles. They were probably his number one band, and then, but he also liked things like Black Sabbath. He liked the band Chicago a lot. It just kind of varied, but for the most part, it was pretty rooted in rock and roll.
Okay, and because you bounced around a lot growing up, right?
Yeah, we certainly did. Being that my dad was in the Air Force, we moved around a lot. So, yeah.
Was there a particular area you spent more time than not?
Well, I would say Texas. Yeah.
Okay.
Houston, Texas is. I spent about 18 years there, and then I've been in Austin since 2009. So I feel like Texas is a big presence in my life.
Yeah, and Austin's a place to. This is a rant. Do you know Full Service, the band Full Service from Austin?
I don't.
Oh, okay, these guys are rad. They do some crazy pop-up shows, and they got one of their whole things was they would follow, I forget what band, 311. They would follow them around and play in the parking lot and
that's so great.
And it got to the point where they got the open for 311.
Oh wow,
but,
that's really cool. I'll have to look them up.
Yeah, they're pretty dope. But a completely different styling than your stuff. But so when you started to when did music become your expression? Because you've dabbled in you do a lot. Looking at your your resume, there's not too much that you're one person workforce, but and you kind of have to be now. Everyone's their own PR and manager and booking agent and filmographer.
That's right, everything.
But was music the first kind of emotive thing for yourself, or was it art, or was there a writing?
When I was a kid, I liked coloring. I liked coloring books and things. So I think I originally kind of started as an artist, drawing cartoons and things like that as a child. Music didn't come along until later on in those days when you get old enough to actually pay attention to music,
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of gravitated towards the music that my dad would listen to. And eventually he started teaching us, me and I have two sisters, started to teach us how to play keyboards. because he played keyboards and guitar. I mean, he pretty much could play everything, but his main thing was guitar. But we had in our house, we had a Yamaha organ, like one of those double decker looking
Yeah, yeah.
kind of things, you know, back in the day. And he would play rock and roll songs on there, on that organ, you know, with chords and melody and all that. And so that's kind of where it all came about in my life. Was he loved doing it, and he taught us how to do it. And my two sisters didn't really gravitate towards that, but I certainly did. And I really loved it. So that was kind of my first intro into music. And as far as like doing music as a career or pursuing that type of path, I didn't get that notion until I went to my first concert and saw Depeche Mode.
Okay. All right.
And
So that's where
so,
it starts.
yes. And
Nice.
so what, I mean, and it's really actually kind of funny because I think there have been several artists. I think uh, Chino Moreno from Deftones, I believe he said when he went to a Depeche Mode show that he got that idea as well. Like, wow, I want to do this. And I even think that Trent Reznor too, when I think he said he went to see the Black Celebration tour back in the 80s or something, and it really set him, you know,
Yeah.
on fire, like, hey, you know. And then of course, you know, but someone like him goes off and writes Pretty Hate Machine, and you know, so it's like he's a special case.
It hit him in a
He's
different way, maybe.
yeah, exactly. But really, that was it for me. You know, I think just seeing the excitement and just everything that a live show was, and what Depeche Mode was on stage, it just, I just went, I want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So, and the rest is history, I guess.
That's it's cool because like one thing with when you follow your passion, whatever it is, and you kind of embrace yourself in it, and
Yeah.
that's the payoff is someone being like, I want to do that, but maybe not
Yeah.
that. You know, it's like this inspiration circle, and like because sometimes like I feel sometimes a music career or a self-expressive career can be kind of like, and this is, I'm not putting this on you or anyone in particular, but could be seen as like self-involved and self-indulgent in a way because it's, but
Hmm.
the takeaway isn't that, it's like you can do this too. And
Yeah.
by seeing someone do that, and like, and then when it seems reachable in a way, when you're like, you know what, well, I can play that key lick, you know what I mean, or I
Right.
can handle that beat, that part of it was simple, maybe I can just ride with that, you know what I mean, like finding little
Yeah.
bits to kind of grab and like and learn how to manipulate on your own. Like so
Yeah.
after that, like because okay, so you learned bits of guitar and piano, but you
Yes.
gravitated towards drums. So was that kind
Hmm.
of from this concert experience? Like that's the thing that I want to do, or was it like because with piano it's interesting, like as someone teaches kids, like playing piano makes sense, there's no hidden agenda, you push down with a finger,
Hmm.
and like with
Yes.
drums it's the same thing, circle the stick, there's no like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, with guitar, no, move your wrist, okay, move the finger, you gotta push down all in the middle, you know, there's like
Oh,
already
yes.
9 steps, so it gets to be
Yeah.
confusing. uh,
Well, you know, I don't know. The guitar was okay, but I don't think my fingers, my hands were really meant. I don't know. Just didn't. I didn't gravitate towards that. I really went more towards drums. And actually, funny enough, it was a concert that made me want to learn drums. And I went to see Chicago, the
yeah,
band.
yeah,
Yeah, because my sisters had gone because my dad had been such a big fan, you know,
yeah,
and we knew all the songs, Saturday in the Park and all that other stuff. And my sisters went to Chicago here and were saying, "Oh, they're really awesome and fun and all that stuff." And so um, the next time they came around, I was like, "All right, well, I want to go see him too," you know. So we went and saw him. And the drummer at the time, his name is Tristan Bowden, really awesome, a great guy, and a very good friend of mine. Played with Kenny Loggins, played with Steve Vai, Shaka Khan. I mean, he's played with everyone.
that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, so naturally, when I like the excitement of live shows. And so his playing was very exciting to me. I was just like, whoa, that's really fun. Like I want to try that. And so that's really where it started. Again, it was just like seeing someone doing the thing and then feeling the excitement, that
Yeah.
inner excitement where it's like, yeah, I don't know how to do that, but I want to learn. So it was one of those kinds of feelings for me.
That's awesome. So what was it? What was the step after that? Like, okay, rudiments, or just how do I,
Oh
how
yeah,
do I do
find a
that beat?
teacher.
That's so important,
Basically, it
though.
was
Yeah.
find an instructor. So I didn't have a drum kit, but I was very interested in learning. And it was one of those things where it's like I'm not going to quite just buy a drum kit and go for it. So I found an instructor and started kind of just right from the bottom. Just took some classes and started to learn the basics. And then when I finally did get a kit, start playing on it and experimenting. And from there, I just picked some of my favorite songs. And at the time, I really loved the Foo Fighters. Like I'm a big
Yeah.
Dave Grohl fan. I know he's everywhere, and I'm sure some people could be like, "Hey, Dave Grohl, stay home at least once, okay?"
Nah, no,
Because
Dave's
he's
always invited
everywhere.
to the party.
I know. And see, I'm okay with it. Yeah. But I always loved Dave Grohl's playing. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of getting off
No,
my
that's
track here. But yeah, I mean, I started picking out some really, fun Foo Fighter songs. Like "All My Life" was one of
dun
the
dun
first
dun dun
songs I
dun
learned.
dun 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 dun.
Yes,
Yeah.
that song's really fun. So that was probably one of the first songs that I learned how to play. But I what I did was I kind of did it in a combo where I brought some songs to my teacher to transcribe for me, and then there were some that I just stayed home and learned by ear. And it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be close.
Right.
Just from listening. But yeah, I would say as far as when I started drumming, I cut my teeth on a lot of Foo Fighters songs, some Queens of the Stone Age songs, which I truly love them too. They're always a fave. And I even really loved playing drums to Buck Cherry's album Black Butterfly.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean it's kind of funny because I don't you know I obviously live in kind of the darker alternative scene. That's really where my heart is. But I mean, great players are great players. I don't
Right.
care what kind of music they're playing. So to me, I like everything.
That
Um,
I think that's
but
so important because a lot of times
yeah,
that's what keeps like growth possible is like being able to be as moved from a Chicago Phil and like a Depeche Mode Phil, or you know what I mean, like being able to
yeah,
like see and appreciate that. And one thing I find in coming from the instrument of drums and the just the kind of basic the element of rhythm is everywhere. And no matter what genre of music it is, there's something that's innovative or something. No matter what, that's what moves you is the rhythm. It's not like even if it's a Taylor Swift song, there's like a rhythmic pulse that drives it. Just like the same. And then
yes,
coming from that kind of background of learning drums, you're learning kind of like the ultimate like understanding of music, which is how
yes,
because it's measured time, right? It's how that time's measured, and what's unique about
hmm
this time being measured compared to that time being measured.
hmm yes,
That's
yes.
that's
And
awesome.
I think also for me, I really liked dance. That was something that my parents brought us to when we were kids. Took some dance classes, and so I think for me to transition from a keyboard player to a drummer seems natural because I like dancing, and drumming is almost like dancing because you're using all four of your limbs, and you're
Yeah,
moving. And I found that to be very appealing. And I mean, I love playing drums. It's a lot of fun. Um, so for me, it was that. And also, I'm a big fan of beats and music. So it's kind of like what you said. It kind of like drives this excitement or feeling of being alive in you. I feel
Yeah.
that it's like that with people, and probably it's a bit of, like our own primal, our heartbeat. The beat is there from the time, you know,
Yeah.
we turn into a human, from
Yeah.
these cells, and like there the heart gets formed and then the beat goes. And that's what you are. I mean, I don't mean to get too deep, but it's
No,
true. It's like,
yeah.
it's where you come from. You arrive with a beat,
That's true.
you
And
know?
yeah, and it's a unique, and the first thing is interesting. The first thing that is developed from what I understand is the ear, right? And and
That's
so
interesting.
right? So you're hearing not I mean it's until everything's formed, you know what I mean? But like that constant pulse of your mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
even the to branch out in a more spacious way, like just the our day-to-day lives, everything is put in a rhythm in a way. If we like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure with some like rhythmic endeavors, like you've seen like that rhythmic clock kind of like
Mm-hmm.
maybe like with like flamenco music, that I saw someone explain it in a circle and it made more like the palmas rhythm, that weird 12 beat rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
make more sense to me, but I still can't pull it off. But uh, but the idea that like not only like is the music we listen to put in a certain parameter of a rhythm, but also in our hearts and our how our bodies work, but also our day to day lives. Like the
Yeah.
Earth is going around, the sun,
Oh yeah.
and right. So and we're spinning. So we got the rhythmic idea of like seasons and like the rhythmic idea of just the time of a day, and it's weird how a lot of it's four, right?
Yeah.
Like we got four
Yes.
seasons and like 12 hours, and you can divide it to four, and
Right.
four is kind of like, at least in our culture, the kind of like main counting,
Yes.
but it's
Oh
really
yes. I agree.
fascinating, really fascinating.
It truly is, and that's one of the reasons why I really love it when children get into music, and because I think it was a highly important thing for me, and it's everything to me, you know.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's a unique expression. I mean, my even my mom, she calls me the weird kid because I'm the one that went all musical and stuff. The other two, they were, you know, they had great grades in school and all that, and I was like, hey, I just want to rock and roll. But anyway, um,
what
but
did
I
what did they end up
uh
doing? Sorry, what did they end up
oh
doing?
no, they I mean, they are, um I don't know, they're I guess they're living the more traditional life. One of my sisters has kids. They're just going about their own thing. The usual kind of life, I suppose. I don't know, that sounds weird. I guess
Yeah.
nothing's usual these
Right.
days.
Right. For sure.
but
For sure.
but but certainly not the life of a creative or a musician, because I really think our lives are kind of unique in a way, because we just don't think of living the lives like everyone else. I think we all kind of tailor our lives to however we need,
Right.
I guess.
I was having a discussion with a friend of mine. So in Cleveland, I do like I kind of explained at the top. I do a bunch of different things, and one of the things I do is I work at this art gallery called Negative Space, and
Cool.
we were. It's a really cool. I'll send you a link to the guy's art. His name's Gotti Zamir, and he does this wood burnt art. It's really beautiful.
Oh, I'd love
Um,
to see.
but we were talking the other day as we were waiting for a meeting to plan some show, and like when the pandemic happened, he was like, "Oh man, I I was so used to it." Like, because he lives this life of like he lives out of this gallery for the most part, right?
Yes.
And I don't want to go into
Hmm.
an impression that won't make sense to you if you don't know. But
No,
like,
no.
um, he he every day he gets in there and he creates, and like the idea of like when the shutdown happened, like someone who was so like kind of attached to a thing that they weren't necessarily like in all with or didn't necessarily care about, but kind of was a
Hmm.
driving force of like, I got to do this to eat, and like
Yes.
we all got to do something like that. But like with how Gotti has like shaped his life, he gets to do like this thing he loves every day as part of it, and there's always this
Yeah.
panic of what do you do next to keep it going, right?
That's right. That
And
is
like
right.
so the pandemic, the shutdown being a a big opening for a lot of people of like losing that
Hmm.
thing that was holding them back, and like, well, do I find
Right.
myself, what do I do, like
Yeah.
for you guys, I mean, so all that being shifted into a question, like, was that the kind of shutdown kind of like, oh, I can finish this project now, or was it like, or fuck, what are we gonna do, you know what I mean, like,
Well, I'm the kind of person that, um, you know, when there's an obstacle there, I just try to think of how to get around it.
yeah,
Mostly, uh, I mean, you can certainly sit and get upset and be depressed. And I had all the same feelings everyone else did. Like, oh man, this is the worst. What's happening? Why is this happening to us now? Blah, whatever.
yeah,
I personally really think that the music industry and bands got hit very hard because of venue shutdowns and things. So I feel like us in the music, in like touring bands and things, we all had a unique experience with that. And there were some people who just didn't know what to do with themselves. They're like, I'm not going out on the road, so I don't know what to do. Um, but for me, I was like, okay, so if I can't play live, like what else can I do to continue my creativity and growth? And so what I did was I joined the producer program at Austin Public Television.
oh,
And
cool,
yeah, and I created a weekly hour-long television series called Villains Were Black. And I ran it for 2 seasons, I'm happy to say. I mean, every week we did an hour-long show. And what I did was we did a combo of live stream shows with myself, with SINE and Curse Mackey. I think we did one with Night. Just some live performances mixed in with music videos. So the idea was that since we were all home doing nothing but just sitting around or trying to figure out what to do, we could still watch TV because all the content was about what was online, what was on TV, who's streaming. And so what I did was I just took what was, I guess, everyone's outlet and created an outlet for me and some friends of mine to show their art, show their work,
yeah,
and not just music videos. I mean, I did some animations. What else? We did some art. Like I had one artist on there who is one of my faves. His name is Juha Arvid Helmanen, and we did a whole segment just on his art and his photography. And he was nice enough to give us some video of him chatting about his work, and then I just displayed the artwork on the screen. So it was kind of like, um, you know, something that could be watched and that people felt like their art was still getting out there, you know?
right. And
So,
what's cool about that is it being on a TV. It's a you're not on the Facebook like we're streaming. Tune in where everyone
yes.
else is. So you had your own landscape, which is cool.
Oh, yes. This was
And
on actual television
yeah, that's
in
a whole
Austin,
nother.
Texas.
That's so sick. It's like
Yeah.
a
And
whole.
it's oh, sorry, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say a whole like another as far as production, how you do it. There's a
Oh,
standard
completely.
to it where like you can't
Oh, man. Yeah.
Facebook, it
Because
can be
I
different.
mean, yeah. My partner, Curse Mackey, helped me a lot with the show as well. So that was what really, like, just having him as a team member, because it was really just me and him putting things together. And we did a couple of online, some streamed interviews with people. Like we did one with Ronnie Mooring from Clan of Zymox, and that was fun. So it was kind of
Sick.
like
Yeah.
a dark variety show, I guess, if you want to call it like that. But that's really how I changed myself during the lockdowns and things. Was I just got really tired of being sad and like, what do I do? That I just had to pick up and do something, and that's the kind of person I am. I mean, I think we all spend way too much of our lives feeling sad,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, just in general. And so I'm trying my best to eliminate as many sad moments in my life with other things that are good. And
That
that might help others too.
Right, it's beautiful. Well, and it's kind of like the concert thing, you know. Like if someone sees you, who maybe because like misery loves company, right? And like it's a lot
Hmm.
easier to kind of dwell on something with somebody if they know they can kind of like put that negative, not negative, but like release that negativity with somebody. You know, it's a
Hmm.
lot easier to complain about stuff
Yeah.
than not, and especially with
Yeah.
somebody. So if that person sees you taking actions to move your shift into a positive light, like
Yeah.
either they look for someone else or they start to do the same thing. And my rose tinted
Yeah.
view is that we all kind of pull each other up. But
Yes, and we must.
yeah,
I'm a big believer in that too, and that was one of the reasons why I started the show, because I saw a lot of my friends and um a lot of my friends have bands, obviously. We're all kind of this little family, but I saw them online being sad and having to announce cancellations of shows and things, and I just hated it for everyone,
yeah,
and so I would look at them and go, well, they got a brand new music video out that, just gets posted on Facebook and YouTube or whatever, but I can put it on TV, so it was
it's
kind of like,
sick. Yeah,
yeah. So I was like, if you guys are all willing to participate and give me permission, like I'd gladly show all this because a lot of these bands spend time and money and a lot of care on their music videos. So to me, it was just a natural way of progressing because if we couldn't go out, we had to stay in. And when people stay in, they watch TV. But for me personally, yes, I had to learn a lot about being a producer. I did everything in Adobe Premiere.
okay,
And so I put all the shows together every single week. It was an hour long show. So that got uh, pretty stressful at some points for me because I had to constantly, like you were saying, like you have to constantly churn that
yeah,
that machine, and that was one of the reasons why I paused after season 2. Like I'm still in the producer program and I'm still considering bringing the show back for a third season, but I just couldn't go straight into the third season because it is like a nonstop process putting a show like that together, and lining up guests and then editing things out, So, um, but I thoroughly enjoyed it as far as like what it stood for and what it did for other people because I really think it brought joy and made some people happy. And whenever the show would come on, I'd always post on Facebook, like, we're all watching, so it's kind of like we'd all be together online watching the show and commenting. And, but I think the greatest thing about that was I've actually had multiple people tell me that when they would watch the show that they had a notepad by them and they would look up these bands right
nice.
away.
Yeah,
Yes. And one fan in particular, she said, "Oh, wow, I watched your show and I saw a video for the band Actors, and now I love them and I'm going to go see them." So I'm just like, great. That's
yeah,
what it's all about. Like you
definitely.
said, help. We all need to just help each other out and pull each other up because, like, every, the success can be all of ours. You know,
Yeah.
there's no reason to be really competitive or anything like that. It's there's room for everyone.
Beautifully said. There is, and it's like that. Joe Strummer's got a quote on that. I forget. I was watching. It's a Let's Rock Again documentary. I don't know if you're
Mm.
into the Clash, but he's got a bit about like this stadium could fill up with Creed fans, and then Metallica the next. There's room for all of it, and
That's right. That's right.
but it is like, and you can spend so much time trying to bash something, but like the idea of bringing in like the kind of just focus on what you were doing, like to be able to share that. One, I think it's way more fun to have a group effort and have everyone be moved by
Yes.
something than just like you and no one seeing it because we're all like, well, my music video was shot with 4K or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, but like,
Yeah.
so to celebrate everyone's accomplishments brings it all together, and that's so cool that that was the beauty of the streamy thing, is like when someone would chime in and share it and tune into it, and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, I see you now. Like, you may have
Yeah.
not been able to come to the shows because you were playing shows. I get it. Like, it just became this
Yeah.
beautiful support that maybe it would not have been seen.
And that's absolutely true. I mean, there's so many times where you run into that, like, hey, I'm playing down the street. And they're like, oh, I'm playing down the street too, and we never get to see each other. That's definitely happened. But yeah, with the show, the main thing that I tried to do was mix much larger artists as far as like we got Martin Gore's, a couple of Martin Gore from Depeche Mode. He did
Yeah,
some solo stuff, and I contacted them and got a couple of his videos so that he could be on the show as well. But I also like to pair artists like him with local artists from Austin or from Texas or from wherever, USA, or wherever in the world. But that was really it. It was about the growth. And so that's I think you had mentioned before about, when you do music, is it like so self-serving? To me, it's, it may seem that way, but really it's just who I am. I don't know what else to do. This is what I do. So I guess if I'm serving myself to fulfill my life, then yes, that's there. But on the other hand, I feel like it's also community building for
right.
me,
Yeah,
because I work with some larger artists, and then I know some artists that are trying to build, and that's really what I want to see, is everyone getting their chance to grow,
right.
because I've certainly wanted those opportunities as well, and then there are some opportunities I still want that I'm maybe not quite there yet, but I feel like I'll get there.
For
and,
sure,
and
especially with that
you
attitude.
know,
You know what I mean? You got to do the full
yeah,
service method. You got to go. We got to hit the parking lots. You got to do the parking lot.
that's right. Yeah. Carry your own gear, set it up, break it down,
Right.
do all the stuff, drive yourself to the next city.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Even like the bands that do make it, a lot of times they're still doing that. And they're
That's
still
right.
doing all the grunt work you foresee yourself not doing, but you still have to do. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
maybe I didn't mean to put it like in a way that you're self-serving. It's just like it's a self-expression thing, right? And you kind of celebrate
Yes.
your own ability to have that outlet, and other people see that, and they're like, maybe
That,
that
yep.
for me is stacking Legos in ways that look like faces from far away, or
Hmm.
or maybe
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
for me is melting pretzels with cookies and making weird things. Whatever it is, like it's got that's the beauty of it, is someone can follow their passion, and like if they can do it, I can do it. And
Right.
it's even better when you do, like when you can do what you're doing and you can share it. And to kind of dive into it, you had like some kind of like a not just, it wasn't all new to you diving into this, right? You had like a multimedia like background in education, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing graphic design forever, I mean, it's pretty much the only kind of job I've ever had.
Like
I
doing
pre-
ads and
graph,
stuff.
yeah,
Okay,
like when I started learning computers, like, what's more fun than doing art on computers? Of
true.
course, that's my natural progression. I want to do art, so it's like, when I started learning computers, I went right to like, oh, Adobe Photoshop, what's this cool thing? Yay. So, from that, I've always been just, you know, I don't know, I guess whatever device it is, I'm going to figure out how to make art on it. I'm going to have to figure it,
Yeah.
it's just what I'm inclined to do. But,
So did that like kind of like um a expansion of like digital art like that, did that kind of branch into like, did that expand your palette musically too? Because like SINE is a much like, it's like industrial, it's electronic, it has all these elements that are like it's not just like the acoustic instruments you started learning on. So like
mhm.
was the kind of learning like that, or maybe it was music within this, but like seeing that digital outlets can be art, and like you can express yourself with it, did that lead
Oh
into
yeah.
music, or was it vice versa? Was the music more technologically like being conveyed before the like digital art.
Yes. So I learned how to play music, and I was already a pretty big fan of music before I learned computer stuff.
Okay.
So it definitely was a driving force. Like when I first got on the computer, um, I originally I immediately wanted to start like, oh, how do you build websites? Like how cool you people can build websites and stuff.
Yeah.
And so funny enough, one of the first things that I did, one of my first websites ever, was a Love and Rockets fan page.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I was like I was already into Depeche Mode and all that stuff by then, and I was just like, oh, I want to build a website for Love and Rockets. Not that anyone would see it, but it was my experiment. And so I learned how to do that, and I was like, oh, you can put music on the site, and I'm like, whoa. So I pretty much figured it out all on my own. I didn't really take classes to do it. I don't know. It's kind of strange because it's like, I guess I was just born with that kind of brain that I just know how to figure out graphics and programs and things. And I feel like once I learned Photoshop, it's like I kind of like got the concepts of how these graphics and design programs are used,
Yeah.
that whenever I would meet a new one, I would kind of already know, oh, okay, it's kind of similar.
That's interesting because
So,
that's like it's kind of like starting with rhythm in a way. Like you kind of get this
mhm,
overlying form.
yes,
Huh.
that's right.
Cool.
So it was
Yeah.
kind of like that, and I think that's why this is just what I do. And I mean, I say what I do only because I don't feel like I have to force anything. And then as far as like all the graphics programs and things that I've learned, I learned them all on my own, either by just trial and error, or if there was, a YouTube video I could look up, hey, how do you do this on Photoshop, and look it up. I mean, the internet is everything, you
Right.
can learn. And I've learned so many things even now, I'm like, now I'm using Ableton, and I look up stuff, how to do that stuff there. It's just, I don't know. I guess my brain always wants to continue being creative. And so whether it be electronics or a musical instrument, I always seek to know more.
And it's no well, that's interesting because like with SINE, it's kind of like the blend of the two, right?
Yeah.
Musically, at least. So like are you using like loops and stuff when you perform live? Like I've seen this set up in some clips of stuff, but like
Hmm.
are you making it, or are you using like a, if you're just diving into Ableton, are you diving into Ableton to like learn the loops and stuff? Or because I have a buddy that is super into Ableton and making beats with Ableton.
Oh yeah. I like making beats in Ableton too. And that's a lot of how, my songs will start, or demos and things. So I use Ableton for creation. I also use it for live. And when I run it live, the way I have everything set up is I have all my instruments on different tracks. And so I guess I mixed my own live set.
Mm.
And then also I have some soft synths that I have in Ableton that I play. Also, I run my backing video. So all the visuals are in Ableton as well. And then other than that, I'm currently using a Roland SPD drum pad
Yeah.
setup. So that's pretty much what my rig is. It's a MIDI controller and my drum pads, and then my Ableton rig and my vocal processor. That's about it,
Nice. That's rad. It's
Yeah, I try to make it simple,
yeah.
but as far as like what music is it that I create, I pretty much do it all. Like I do the loops, and then I also play the actual pads
Oh, sick.
and play synth. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Right. Well, so I kind of phrased it in a weird way, but no, totally. Um, But so kind of like when you're writing, like with a project with like Sign, um, now are you like experimenting with loops? Are you coming into it with like kind of a lyrical idea and like then hearing the beat that can be surrounded and kind of bring out this narrative? Or
Mm,
sorry,
no, that's okay. As far as like the creation of my songs, it varies really. What I do is throughout my days or whatever, if I think of some wording or an idea, I'll write it down. I have several books of just, either words or maybe phrases or thoughts and things. And I just kind of keep all that for when I want to reference back some of my writing. But as far as like the musical creation, sometimes it's with a beat, just starts with a beat. There are other times where maybe I'll find a cool synth sound that I really like, and then I'll go off of that. So it really varies. And I find that most of the time, the music is written first, and
okay,
then the lyrical content comes second. Um, Very few times I've had the lyrical content first and then had to put music to it. It's usually not how I work, but it's, I just kind of go off of whatever vibes I'm feeling and just kind of go from there. But yeah, um,
okay.
you know,
With
I don't
Sign,
have a
that makes
standard method.
gotcha. I don't think it'd be predictable, right? Like if it
No.
was, it'd be I don't know, like the band that's kind of putting out the cookie cutter thing, same thing.
Yeah.
Because with Sign, I can't imagine lyrics kind of or a melody like that being the first thing, just with how the project like just how it's layered and everything. To me, it'd be mind blowing right now if you were telling me the opposite. Like I'd be like, "What? How did you just hear
Wow.
that melody and focus on that line?" Oh, like,
Oh yeah.
but
Well, a lot of the times I'll create some music, and what I'll do is if I get inspired by some of the words, and a lot of the times I'll flip through those books that I write things in, and if something catches my eye or something seems to fit, then I will do like some scratch vocals on top of my music. And a lot of the times, um, surprisingly, it works out.
yeah, huh,
For instance, well, this might be a reference for later, but I have the next single that'll out from the Mantis One EP. That song in particular, I swear I wrote it on autopilot. It was the strangest thing. And even when I sing it live, it's like I'm not even thinking of the words, but they're coming out, if that sounds really odd.
no, that makes it. It's just in the pocket of it, and like in fall, like
Yeah. But
it,
there was something about that song that it really wrote itself. I mean, I was like, oh, wow, those are good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And because rarely do I sit there and continuously write and go, whoa, okay, I'm going to add that word, this word. That one just came around, and I love it.
which
And
what tune is it?
oh, it's called Attack.
Attack. Okay.
Yes, and so that one has not been released yet, but so far that's going to be the first single off of Mantis One, which is going to be a 3 EP set.
Okay.
So
Because I got the one.
because
I was gonna say
yeah,
I got what Howard sent me.
yes, and that one's the latest one.
So
Yeah.
okay, so this is gonna be the next batch. Okay, so
Yeah, so this release that you have called Desire, Denial, and Paramania.
yeah,
So that one is a collection of SINE songs plus a new song that I put together as kind of like, my catching up with Depeche Mode. It's my catching up with SINE.
yeah,
So, and the reason why I did that was because I signed with Emergency Hearts, which is a label in Austin, Texas, and basically we kind of wanted to come up with something like an intro to SINE.
mm,
So what I did was I took the songs that I had on my first album, and then my second release as well, and then some random singles I had in between, had some remixes, one of which is Meat Beat Manifesto remix, which is awesome.
That is cool.
um, yeah, that one's a
Yeah.
great one.
Yeah.
But we put that all together in this package. And one of my reasonings is because I feel like SINE is still pretty new in general. And so it's kind of like if someone were to pick this up now, they would get a pretty good look at what SINE is
Right.
just from that without having to go back to the first album if they don't want to or whatever it is. Or if they feel intrigued, certainly can check on my earlier work. But it was more of like a bridge to the next album, which
Okay.
originally was going to be Mantis was going to originally be a full length album. And so once I got with Emergency Heart, the founder, his name is Scott Crow, he really loved all the new music and said, we can't just throw this all out at once. Come on, let's break it up into 3 parts. I think that would be kind of cool. And so I was very intrigued by that idea. I thought, oh, that's kind of fun. Yeah, let's try it like that. So Mantis is actually going to be in 3 parts. And the first section, the first one, will probably come out in January, but we're still working on the dates. And again, that's tough because everybody wants to release stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very saturated.
It's weird, right? Because like it's more like it should be one package deal, but you got to kind of elongate it so you're always coming out with new stuff. And like
Yeah,
it's
but I think that's the way to go now.
yeah.
You know,
All right. That makes
yeah, I truly feel like, cause I don't know. It just, sometimes, you know, bands will come out with albums and then the fans will listen. And then sometimes they're kind of like, oh, that was awesome. What else you got? You know, and
right.
the band's worked on that for like a year, you know, so there, there are,
that is what I had.
yes, yes. And so that is, you know, I feel like sometimes that happens, or maybe like, things move really quickly in this world now, and you know, if you don't catch someone's attention in the first 2 seconds, they're scrolling by you, you know.
Right. Right.
And this is the world now. So I think that now I feel like more people are releasing EPs now, and
Yeah.
I think it's a way to give your music a little more longevity and some life, and also an opportunity to build and grow.
I agree with
And
that. Yeah.
me as SINE, I need the opportunity to build and grow. So I think this will be a good move for me. Um, only because then you know, you get a little more press coverage on it, and then people will start to see your name more. So there's a lot of strategy behind releasing many things rather than just throwing a big lump sum out there. You know, so as musicians, we have to just think of all that as well. And then a lot of the times when you're putting something out, you have to have a lot of lead time for premieres
Right.
and press. So a lot, you know, I wanted to put this out in November, but it was just like, there was no way. There was too many things going on, too many albums coming out, and very saturated, you know. So I opted for next year, and which is okay because that just gives us a little more time to plan and put together a better package, you know. So that's kind of how I look at it.
That's awesome. No, like that makes sense to kind of like, and one, I guess that would give you more room to constantly be like preparing new stuff. Like
That's right.
if you're putting it out and kind of stretching it out, you're kind of always feeding the algorithm, which you know that's the platform stuff's going on. Not everything is coming out on vinyl.
Right.
Which would make which would make sense. You got to fill both sides. This has got to be a thing someone listens to, and someone can walk in and hear someone listen to it. Or now it's like
Yeah.
zoom,
Yeah.
zoom, zoom. So that's a
Yes.
that's a okay. So that's awesome. So it's going to be broken into 3 parts, and the first one
That's right.
looking to be in January, near the end of the month, or what are you guys
I
thinking?
it probably most likely will be end of month, but you know, things are always tentative. You know how it is, and
Yeah,
especially with like, you know, the whole you know, pandemic thing and people not going out on the road, so
right.
albums are being held back, and then there's vinyl production issues and all this other crap happening around us. You know, so for me to be definite about it, can't quite be there yet, but we're working on it.
No,
We're working
that's
on a
exciting.
solid date. Yes.
And the
Yes.
kind of touch upon the collection aspect of the last release, it fits together really well. Like
Oh, thank you.
I couldn't tell, like you can tell different like kind of song approaches, and like there's a, okay, well this one's got curse on it, so that's interesting. That one sticks out because of that. And then like but as far as like a single like record, it fits together really well. So that's pretty profound too, knowing that it came from different time eras. I don't know why I
Oh,
said that like that,
yes. It's
but
well, it's 2016 to 2021.
so working with Curse on like a sign in the project Sign, what's the like? Are you kind of what's that process like? Are you showing him a song and is he like, or is he giving you a beat, or like what's
The way it usually goes is he did some production on let's see, he did some production on Control, and he did some
drugs?
production on yes, he sang on Drugs. Let me see if he added any instruments. So the way it usually happens is I will already kind of have the song together, and I'll give him what I've done, and he just kind of does a pass on it.
Mm,
And so, whether it be adding instrumentation or anything else, with Drugs in particular, I asked him to be a part of that song because, when I went to do the chorus, I felt like, needs some more beef, needs more grit.
yeah.
Or something. And so he has a really great voice. If you're familiar with Curse's work with Pigface and with his own solo stuff, he has a really great voice and a great presence. So I had him come in and sing the chorus with me. And then as far as like musical production, like I said, I just give him what I have, and I give him free reign because I trust him. He's a professional and he's done lots of great music. So, yeah, I just pretty much trust his instincts. And then when he's done with it, then he'll send it back to me, and I'll listen to the things that he did, and then we'll, either keep or mix in, or, but that's pretty much it. I trust his judgment. He has great musical production qualities. So.
That's awesome. It's super cool. You can like just be like, add the thing to it, and then you're like,
Oh, yeah.
that's the thing I didn't even know it needed.
Oh,
Like,
yes. And he'll very much do that. He listens to the stuff that I do, and he's like, it just needs a crack right here, and I'm like, all right, let's go add that crack in. So it's kind of like, and I like getting his opinion on things and his feelings, because sometimes when you're creating music, I mean, you do music yourself, you start getting in your own space, and then,
right? Yeah.
sometimes I'll call him in like, hey, I can't get this melody out of my head, and I want it to go away. So can you, like, how that is. And you
Yeah.
just go, I
Yeah.
need someone else to tell me or give me an impression. And then I can go, oh, that's a different perspective. Okay. So that's another way he helps me, is sometimes I need someone else's ears to hear it.
Right, because you'll get so like looking at the tree, not the forest, or tunnel vision.
Yeah. Or,
Ah,
you get stuck on a riff, and then you're
yeah.
like, I just can't hear anything but that, because I'm just like, my brain keeps thinking that. So, but yeah, I mean, I love collaborating, and, I don't do this, one woman army kind of thing on purpose. it's, it's pretty much like out of necessity, to do your own thing. But yeah, I'm always open to collaborators, and that's why I ended up working with Chris Connolly on the song. And then also just recently, I'm looking to do some collaboration with Mark Pistol. He's known for being Consolidated is the project name, but yeah, I
Sick.
mean, collaborations are awesome, and I love doing it because it just gives a new perspective on great ideas.
Right. And what's cool being kind of like a one person operation, you can do that. And like
Yeah.
I get the necessity to like I can at least count on me showing up to the gig. Like
That's right.
um
That's right.
speaking of which, you I wanted to ask you about that Bauhaus gig that you guys were
Oh,
Bauhaus at, you and Curse.
yes. Oh,
Who
yes.
didn't
And
show
that,
up to the gig?
I know, that's so wild. Never in a million years did I ever think that was ever going to happen. But, I mean, we're
So,
just, ugh.
so
I
they
mean,
didn't show up? Like, what happened?
well, what happened was, so SINE, I got booked as the sole opener for the show in Orlando.
Sick.
And what happened, yeah, it was amazing. It was something that I actually I didn't put in for. So the promoter found me and said, "Hey, I see you're from Texas. You want to come to Florida and perform with Peter Murphy?" And I'm like, "Yes." So that was a no brainer. But, it was actually a makeup show from one that he had scheduled in like February or something. Uh, this was in 2019.
Okay.
So the second makeup show was the one I did in April. So, you know, we went in and didn't really think that he wasn't going to show up, but, he didn't show up for sound check. And I
Uh,
didn't think anything of that
yeah.
because I was like, sometimes the lead singer doesn't show up for sound check and someone checks their mic and it's fine.
Right.
But then when he didn't show up for the VIP meet and greet, we were kind of like, this is a little iffy,
Yeah.
And then I actually did not find out that he wasn't coming until after I was done with my set.
Oh no.
So, yeah, so I did my whole entire set thinking he was going to be playing after me. And,
Right.
and, I'm up there like, woo, Peter Murphy, hey, woo, and all
Doing
this.
crowd work, getting everyone hyped
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Everyone's like, yay, and then next thing you know, after I was done, Curse came over and ran over to me and was like, hey, don't break down your stuff. Peter's not coming and we're going to play with David and the band. So just come with me. And I'm like,
What?
oh my goodness. I know. Oh, yes. I mean, for a second there, I was like, you get that, flash of whatever terror. You know how that feels?
Yeah.
Like you get that little twinge in your gut and you're like, ugh. But we pulled it off. We did awesome. I played my little drum rig and Curse sang, and the band was the band. David J was there on bass, Mark Slutsky on drums, and Mark Gemini Thwaite on guitar. And we went out and just did it, and people, some people left because they were really angry, but I
Yeah.
would say the majority of them stayed, and it was a really fun show.
That's awesome.
And it was just unfortunate that Peter was just not feeling up to it, and I would have loved to meet him and stuff, but hey, maybe one day.
Was but just what a you got the Bebau house. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
that's
I know.
super
It was the
sick.
weird.
That's like
Yeah, because I know. But we did kind of like deconstructed dubbed versions of the songs, so it wasn't like an exact word for word kind of show. It was it
right.
was a little more loose,
There's
and we
no
did
way,
some,
right? Because it
yeah.
was like
I mean,
then how would you like?
yeah.
Oh, I can totally pull off all of the discography. What
Oh,
do you want to
oh
do?
no,
Like,
no, we certainly didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the show, everyone was really happy. We had a lot of people come up to us after the show and say thank you for at least staying and giving them a fun night, because it
that's
was like
awesome.
a second disappointment. But overall it was great. And like David J, his quote on the situation is, we made champagne out of lemons.
Well said. And
Yes, and he is a great friend because of that night too. He is also a very, very good friend of ours now.
that's so cool to be like friends with
Yeah,
your hero.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
Right.
I was like, I built a Love and Rockets fan site for you. Hee hee, and he's like, you are nuts, fangirl. I'm kidding. He's sweet. He's funny, but he sometimes giggles because for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're David J. and you're standing right here,
Right.
because it's still like that for me. I'm like, man, I used to just love Love and Rock. I mean, I still do love Love and Rockets, but to actually play with one of them and then be a friend to one is like, whoa, pretty
Right.
intense.
How cool. That's so amazing.
Well, it tells me I'm in the right place.
Right.
So I guess from being the weird kid, all those years, I can tell my mom, hey, look, I'm doing good now. All those times she called me weird.
Ouch.
This is
Like,
it. I know. I'm like, this
ouch.
is it. No, no, she's awesome though. She's
Yeah.
really funny. But
Were
my
they?
mom's Asian, so
Oh, okay, okay.
um,
So were they not
yeah.
supportive, or they were like, or not supportive, but like, were they
Well,
like, get the real job
n-
too? Like, have plan B, or
no, nah, okay, so the reason why I brought up that my mom is Asian is because like they just, I don't know, they just don't. She doesn't really have. She's not really in. I don't know. It's just, how could I say this? She's very Americanized. She does like music and enjoys rock and roll and stuff like that. But, traditionally, I guess in their culture, it's like, your kids usually don't run off and become musicians.
right?
It's not a usual thing. So for her, it was kind of like, oh, that's what you want to do? Like, okay, that's weird, but whatever, kind of thing. And, and of course, my dad is always very supportive, and he bought me my first Yamaha like keyboard and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, it's more of a thing like for her culturally, it's like, you want to do that, kind
Yeah.
of like, don't you want to like do other stuff, like be a doctor or maybe do something else? It's kind of that. But she's very supportive and she's so sweet, but she's just not real hip to this kind of music. And she told me, I don't know how to like your kind of music. I feel like
Aw.
there's no melody. And to me, because it's electronic, she's
Yeah.
used to like regular rock and roll, so she's like, what's this electronic stuff, but it's really funny. But she's awesome, and my family is behind me 100%. So
That's beautiful.
weird kid and all.
That's beautiful. Because like it's, I don't know, because there's the classic like, well, I've had to fight and blah blah blah. I don't talk to them, so
No way.
yeah, yeah, it's beautiful that I don't get it, but that's cool. You do what you do,
Yeah.
like in. Because I feel like a lot of times as you grow older, you realize that with your parents, you're like, oh, you're in the birds, cool, like whatever.
Yeah.
I don't get it, but
Well, yeah. Well, she's just kind of funny, and she's a sweet, like modest woman, and obviously being in entertainment for me, you dress a little sexier or whatever. It's stage wear and things like that. And she would just look at pictures and go, oh, why do you have to be so sexy? Like weird stuff like that. And I'm like, Mom, those pictures aren't for you.
thanks,
I don't
mom.
know.
Ooh.
I know. That's why I'm like, stop following me on Facebook. Like, I'm just kidding. She's silly, and she's a super great lady. So, but anyway, she just kind of jokes like, oh, put some more clothes on. Aren't you cold?
That's such a mom bit too.
Yeah, I know. Silliness.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's interesting too because electronic and techno music, like just anything, the melody is so much is there. It's just like accompanied in a completely different way, and it's interesting like
Yeah.
how like when it's not as upfront, like it's confusing. Like you see that with classical music too. Not a lot of people are into it as much because there's layers on like, well, where's the song? Maybe I'm projecting that, but also like with jazz, maybe that's a better example. Like what's going on? The melody was
Right.
that, but now it's somewhere, and
Yes.
like so the melody and the placement of that's super interesting and culturally like coming from a different culture and like having a different like background with what melodies like there too has to be like kind of into that discussion as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Dave, I think I'm going to have to
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been going
take
on.
off in a bit, but it was really nice talking to you, though.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it too, because most of the time when we get interviews called on, it usually is so when did you start music? Who are you influenced by? Blah blah blah, which is fine. I don't mind those questions, but it's just nice to expand on those. So I appreciate that
Well,
very much.
thank you. I appreciate it.